Hello everybody, in lesson 2, unit 1, careers, pre-intermediate market leader. So in this lesson we will deal with two sections, listening and language review. The first one is listening under the title Improving Your Career. But before listening to the two people discussing the 10 ways to improve your career, I will ask you to reread the article of 10 ways to improve your career again. Okay, and after that we will listen to two women, Divya and Nicola, discussing the article in the reading section. After listening, you have to complete the table below with the number of the 3 tips they consider the most helpful.
1. Careers. Recording 1.1.
Lots of helpful advice here. Debbie, what do you think?
Just a sec. Right. Well, I'd say the most useful tip from this list was the one about creating your own goals. I've always believed that if you don't know where you want to go, well, you'll never get anywhere.
You'll be stuck.
Exactly. Stuck in the same old job for the rest of your life. Right. Next. Be comfortable with being no. That's my third point, actually. What I've chosen is make a list of your priorities.
And outline your tasks for the day.
Yep, that's the one. It's logical, isn't it? First, you need to set your objectives, and once you've done that, you need to prioritize them. And if you want to move ahead in your career, you also need to evaluate your progress regularly. As it says here, if you do that, you get a better idea of what you're good at, and also of the areas that you need to work on.
It's all connected with feedback, isn't it? And what's your last point then?
Well, as I said a minute ago, be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I wasn't too sure how to interpret that one.
Well, my understanding of this is that when a challenge presents itself, you have to take it on. I mean, if you play it safe all the time, if you just settle into a routine, you'll never move ahead in your career.
That reminds me of a quote I read recently.
Yeah?
It said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll only get what you've already got.
I really like that. It's so true, isn't it? You can't make progress if you don't take risks, sometimes. Now, Nick, your turn. Which of these 10 tips do you think are the most useful?
Hard to believe, but my first one is the same as yours.
Really? That's so interesting. A meeting of minds.
For me, this was the easiest to decide on. I believe that once you've established your own goals, in many ways all the rest follows. Anyway, the second piece of advice I chose is always look for opportunities to broaden your skills. Some companies, like mine for instance, look after their employees' professional development really well, but others don't. And in that case, it's your personal responsibility to look for suitable opportunities. And finally, my third point was, are you really present? Because I believe it's crucial to be 100% focused on whatever task you're engaged in. But now, after talking with you, I think I'd like to change it. I like what you said about being uncomfortable. We really have to try something new. If we don't, we'll never grow professionally or even personally.
So, if we compare our final ranking, our number 1 and number 3 are the same. We just differ on the second point.
That's right, yes. I quite enjoyed discussing this article with you. You have very...
So after listening to the extracts, in Activity B they ask you to discuss these questions. Question number 1. do you think is the relationship between Divi and Nicola? What do you think is the relationship between Divi and Nicola, and why? Number 2. In your opinion, where are they from and how old they are? In this activity, they ask you to specify the relationship between the two speakers and guess their age. In activity C, we will listen to these extracts from the discussion and try to complete them.
Recording 1.2.
If you want to move ahead in your career, you also need to evaluate your progress regularly. If you do that, you get a better idea of what you're good at and also of the areas that you need to work on. When a challenge presents itself, you have to take it on. If you play it safe all the time, if you just settle into a routine, you'll never move ahead in your career.
If you always do what you've always done, you'll only get what you've already got.
Well, after filling in the gaps, we move to activity D. Look at Nicola's command in exercise C. Do you agree with it? Why? In his quote, Nicola says, "If you always do what you have always done, you'll only get what you have already got." So, the question here, what do you think it means? And whether you agree with it or not. So you have to give reasons for your opinion. So after finishing the discussion about the listening section, we'll move to language review under the title of models, ability, request, and offers. Well, model verbs are very common in English. Models are verbs like may, might, can, could, etc. They don't change with different persons. For example, we say I can, you can, he can. So the ones we will see here are can, could, and would. So I will ask you to look at model used for ability, request, and offers, and then do the exercise in activity A. In activity A, they ask you to arrange the words in 1 to 9 to make questions from a job interview. Then you have to decide the function of each question. Is it making a request, A, B, making an offer, or C, asking about ability? Number 1 is an example. For example, can I get you anything? Can I get you anything? So here the function is making an offer. So you have to do the same thing from number 2 till number 9. In activity B, we have some answers. So they ask you to match the questions in exercise A with the interview's answers below. For example, A, it's 43,000. It's related to question number 6. B, yes, I use it a lot in my current job. C, I can let you know next week. D. Thank you. A coffee, please. E. Yes, the address is the same, but my email has changed. F. I'd love some. Thank you. G. Well, I'm currently responsible for European sales. H. Yes, I can speak French and Spanish. I. My notice period is 2 months. Well, after doing this task, I will ask you to practice in pairs and read the exchange with pleasant intonation so as to clarify that the politeness in the request is in the intonation. In activity D, they ask you to complete these sentences with the appropriate form, which means positive or negative, of the models can, could, and would. So you will write the positive or the negative form of these models depending on the context of each sentence from 1 to 5. After the correction of the exercise C, I will ask you to go through the 5 sentences to rewrite the one which is true for you. And you can change the others that doesn't suit you to be convenient. For example, the first sentence may change to I would like to work overtime, especially if the pay was very good, as I'm saving to go on holiday. Well, after finishing the lesson in the student book, we will move to the practice file or workbook to do some activities of language review under the title Requests. So in activity A, they ask you to complete the interviewer's questions from a job interview with words from the books. The first word is working, contact, let, moving, send, sharing, start. So the example of number 1 is already done. Would you mind working at weekends? Would you mind working at weekends? So they ask you to fill in the gaps with words from the books from question number 2 till question number 7. After that, we have to match the interview's answers to the interviewer's questions in exercise A. So we have to match the questions with the answers. So we have answer A, not at all as long as it's in the morning. B, certainly, I'm free to start as soon as you like. C, yes, I'll let you know my decision by Friday, if that's alright. D, sure, I'll put copies in the post straight away. E, that's fine, as long as it's a non-smoking area. F, how often would that be? How often would that be? G, well, in fact, they are all included in my CV. Well, After matching the interviewee's answer to the interviewer's questions, we will move to the past abilities in activity C. They ask you to study the examples, then complete the dialogues below with could or was able to. Examples: could general ability. A. Can you use a PC? B. Yes, I can. In fact, I could use a PC when I was 10. Was able to. One occasion. A. So, were you late for the interview? B. No, Sue gave me a lift, so I was able to get there in time. So the question here, what is the difference of the use of could and was able to? We use could for a general and permanent ability. That means they ask me about the use of a PC, so I use it for since a long time. It's a past ability and a permanent one. For the second one, was able to, is just an occasional ability. It's not permanent. So after making the correction of the activity C, past abilities, we will move to writing. Here in writing, under the title Curriculum Vitae. In this activity, they ask you to complete Anthony's CV with the headings from the box. So we have address, achievements, email, experience, interests, personal details, profile, qualifications, referees, special skills, telephone. In this activity, they ask you to write the correct headings from the box to complete the curriculum vitae of Antonia Sofia Meditash. Okay, number 1 is already done. Address is already written in number 1, so you will fill in the gaps with the other headings from number 2 till number 11. It depends on the context of each heading and the content of the curriculum vitae. So after checking your answers and making the correction, we will discuss the difference between the curriculum vitae in USA and UK and Morocco. So we will point out the different points between the three types of curriculum vitae. And the last activity, of course, will be a task for you to write your own curriculum vitae, respecting the chronology of each heading in the same of curriculum vitae of Antonia Sofia Meditasha. With this activity, we come to the end of the classwork in the coursebook and further work in the workbook. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in lesson 3 next time. It was Riyad, the business English teacher.